In November of 1995, Alice in Chains would release their final studio album with frontman Layne Staley. Nearly 6 months after the album came out, the band hadn't played a single date to support the record. In fact, Alice in Chains hadn't played a live show since early 1994, which was an acoustic set for a benefit show. It would be ironic that their first show in nearly 2 years would be another acoustic show, this time for MTV's Unplugged program, which took place in New York City in April of 1996. According to guitarist Jerry Cantrell, the band had been asked numerous times by MTV to record an Unplugged set. By this point, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Stone Temple Pilots had already done the show, with Cantrell telling Kerrang!, "We were thinking, no disrespect, but hasn't this been done by everyone? We don't need to do that." Eventually, though, the band gave in to MTV's requests. Alice in Chains, by this point in their career, were no strangers to performing acoustically, having put out the Sap and Jar of Flies EP. For the band, the prospect of playing a live acoustic set was both scary and an opportunity to show the world just how good the band's songs were, with Cantrell recalling to Kerrang!, "There's no safety net, so your songs better be good. Boiling it down reveals the heart of the song without all the bells and whistles, and if it still hits in that environment, then you did good." While frontman Layne Staley worked with the supergroup Mad Season in late 1994 and 95, his appearance had drastically changed since the last time Alice in Chains were touring. The years of drug abuse had clearly taken their toll. Looking noticeably thin, with the color gone from his face, the frontman would emerge last on stage wearing sunglasses to cover his sunken eyes, a long-sleeve t-shirt, and gloves to hide his years of drug abuse. It was said by this point in time that Layne had already lost several of his teeth to drug addiction, with some pointing to a noticeable lisp during the show. Even though the band had accepted MTV's offer to appear on the program, whether the performance would happen was another question. Drummer Sean Kinney would tell author Greg Prado, "Up to the moment, it was just a nail-biter. Barely any rehearsing at all, guys not showing up, the same shit, rolled out there and everything worked." Alex Coletti, who was a producer for MTV, had long worked on MTV's Unplugged series since its inception in 1989, and he would tell author David DeSola in the book Alice in Chains: The Untold Story that since the band wasn't touring at the time, it actually worked in their favor, recalling, "If you're on tour playing arenas and big rock venues every night, to unplug when you're in that headspace is really hard to kind of turn down, but coming from a resting period, they were able to approach it as if they were rehearsing for this one thing." The band would rehearse in Seattle before flying to New York. Coletti would recall to DeSola flying to rehearsals to discuss instruments, stage setups, as well as gear. The band would work with producer Toby Wright, who did the band's last 2 releases, including 1994's Jar of Flies and the following year's self-titled record. Coletti would recall getting a last-minute request for lava lamps from the band, recalling in the same book, "I was getting them so late, apparently lava lamps need to be heated and turned on for quite a while before they do what they're meant to do. So if you're watching the show, they're kind of sluggish and not at full potential, so the lava lamps themselves were kind of grungy and just barely moving around. It was kind of fitting, but we didn't do it on purpose," he'd recall. Randy Biro, who served as the band's stage manager as well as guitar and bass tech, recalled Layne bringing his own drug supply ahead of the MTV gig, which he put in a glass pill bottle, recalling he hadn't done enough to where he was nodding off and drooling. The MTV Unplugged performance was also notable because the band debuted a new song called "The Killer Is Me." As for Cantrell, he was sick during the performance. While it's been reported extensively over the years that Jerry got food poisoning from eating a street hot dog, he would tell Kerrang!, "Oh yeah, I had food poisoning, but when the lights went green, the camera started rolling, my body gave me some adrenaline and dopamine, I needed to get through it," adding, "As soon as it was over, I went back to feeling crappy again." Metallica, who were friends with the band, were in attendance at the show and were poked fun at by bassist Mike Inez, who wrote on his bass, "Friends don't let friends get friends' haircuts," while the band also jammed on a bit of Enter Sandman and Battery. This was the Load era of Metallica when the members had cut their hair and, according to Cantrell, were looking like GQ models. Cantrell would tell Kerrang!, "Having Metallica watching the gig helped. Those guys have always been in our inner circle of rock and roll brothers, so to have the whole band there meant a lot." The band would joke around a lot with each other and the audience, and the band had to restart the song Sludge Factory several times, something you can see a bit of on the Unplugged VHS. Since Layne had written the song as a shot at the band's record label and 2 of the label's heads were sitting in the front row, it was thought that maybe Layne was nervous about that. Coletti, for his part, would credit drummer Sean Kinney for being, and I quote, "the unsung hero of Unplugged," Adding to David DeSola, because the thing about Unplugged, especially with rock bands, is you live or die by the drummer. If the drummer gets it and tempers his playing, then everyone can kind of play at a lower volume and play acoustically. When the drummer just plays like a rock show, everyone turns up their monitors, and what's meant to be this acoustic thing just sounds like shitty electric guitars. Released in July of 1996, the album would peak at number 3 on the Billboard 200 charts and would go platinum, while the VHS release went gold. The initial reviews were mixed, but following Staley's death in 2002, people seemed to have a greater appreciation for the performance. Cantrell would look back at the Unplugged album recalling to Revolver, "People say it's their favorite Alice in Chains record all the time, and that's cool. Every single record I've put out is somebody's favorite. While there's a group of folks who dig our effing heavier shit, there are those who prefer our more acoustic side. Unplugged means a lot to so many people, and it means a lot to me too." Cantrell would appear on Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich's Beats One podcast and talked about how the Unplugged set and 1996 in general represented the end of the band with Layne Staley as the frontman, as he stated here.
Get friends haircuts.
Yeah.
So all joking aside, that was the back of Mike's bass the night you guys played your Unplugged gig in...
I think it was the front. I think it was the front of the bass.
Was it the front?
I think it was the front of the bass.
So that was in 96.
That was the Metallica haircut era.
Yes. Yeah. And but that night, the Unplugged night, that was, apart from, I guess, one show where you guys did a Kiss thing, you opened for Kiss.
That was the end.
Yeah, it was like a one-off.
That was the end.
That Unplugged session is one of the most legendary of those Unplugged sessions. At that time were a big deal. Everybody was doing them.
No.
And you guys, I guess maybe along with Nirvana and one or two other bands, had the very, very cream of those sessions from MTV. What do you remember about that night, about playing and just being together and giving those songs the acoustic treatment in front of people?
I remember being surrounded by friends like you guys. You guys were all there. And we had a lot of other friends there too. And you're right, that and the Kiss shows, I think that was it. So for a period...
Was there a sense of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for a period of time, and you know this, knowing that my band's probably over and, you know, knowing that one of my friends might be committed to going out that way, that's a tough thing to live with, and still try to keep that internal and support the group. And also, none of us really wanted to control one another. We just wanted to exist. And if that's where somebody's going to go, then that's what they're going to do. And we all went through that to some degree. And I don't think I was in great shape either. I think I was not feeling too hot either by my own hand for that gig. I think that's why all of that is in there, because all of that background that I just described, we were all living in that and knowing that we're coming to the end of it here. Unless something really drastically changes, we're coming to the end really quick. And I think part of that is in that performance.
As an outsider there, as the celebration of the strength of the songs.
Yeah, for sure.
When they're stripped down, because as you know, and musicians know this.
Yeah,
it's like when
it better be there.
When you can play an acoustic instrument, there better be a song there and a vocal melody and a lyric.
That's right.
That can stand on its own without the volume and without the weight of the electric instruments. And I just remember seeing that every one of those songs were so moving in their simplest form.
That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. We'll see you again. Rock and Roll Your Story sticker.